Srimate Narayana Namaha. Welcome to another episode of Kaliyuga Dharma. In this episode, we will explore the basics of Goseva, that is, service to cows and bulls. Now, certain questions arise, even in our own minds. Why are cows and bulls holy in Vedic Dharma? What makes any animal holy? Are there animals other than cows and bulls that are holy in Vedic Dharma? And is it not unfair to other animals that only some, such as cows and bulls, are holy? We will address these questions one by one. Why are cows and bulls holy in Vedic Dharma? Any creature gains holiness in Vedic Dharma in one very simple way. In fact, there's just one very simple explanation for it. Creatures are Jivatmans who have taken living form, and they have to outlive those lifetimes in a certain way. When any living form is created, Shri and Narayana, the Almighty, they have in their minds a certain way in which they want that living form to live, a way that is pleasing to them. That is, every living creature has to please Shri and Narayana in a certain way, depending on the kind of life it has taken. And the way in which a living thing pleases Shri and Narayana, that way is defined as that living thing's dharma. This is the simplest explanation for dharma and why someone is holy. If some living creature is able to do this to a by and large satisfactory manner, if a living creature, despite all the other faults within that living creature, is able to do this for the greater part of its lifetime, it is considered as holy, dharmic. The same thing applies to animals, but unlike humans, we don't see a lot of difference between animals. We can clearly distinguish between a good human and an evil human. We can't do that between animals because animals externally to our eyes, they all behave very similarly. A dog runs around, a cow runs around, a cat runs around. Why are they different? Why is the cow earmarked? Over here, we can't rely on our perception alone. That is what our eyes and our ears tell us. No, unfortunately, we cannot use any of our indriyas to determine this answer. We have to rely on scripture, because when you look at a cow, it's going to look like any other animal. It's going to behave externally like any other animal. You can't believe very easily that this is a creature that is somehow holier than the others by just looking at it or by standing near it. You can't. When we look at the scriptures, we see the metaphysics behind the cow. The cow was not created like other animals. It was created from Brahma directly. One race of cows, the first race of cows that emerged from Brahma, are known as the Kapila. They came out of the cows, they came out of Brahma's body in order to take the sins of other living beings and move them closer to Shri and Narayana. How do they do this? Simple. The cow and the bull are themselves venerable forms of Shri and Narayana. What does that mean? Aren't all other creatures also forms of Shri and Narayana? Do we not see in our scriptures that the stone lying on the road, the planet Earth, the sun, the water bodies, the rabbit, the mongoose, all are shariras of Shri and Narayana. So what makes the cow any special and different from them? Not all shariras are ordained to be worshipped. Some shariras alone of Shri and Narayana are ordained for worship, because that is their will. We can't understand this beyond a certain point. Only some shariras embody the Shuddha Sattvika presence of Shri and Narayana in them, making them venerable. What are these shariras? The Archa Rupa in the temple, the Vibhava Avatara, when Rama, Krishna, etc. themselves descend over here physically and live amongst us. That form of Bhagavan is definitely venerable. The Bhagavan sitting inside us, if we can think of that Bhagavan himself. The sun is a venerable form of Bhagavan. The Tulasi plant is a venerable form of Bhagavan. The Ganga water is a venerable form of Bhagavan. Vaishnava sannyasis who hold the Tridanda, the Mahabharata says, they are venerable forms of Bhagavan. And finally, cows. They are venerable forms of Bhagavan. In each of these creatures in various ways, in each of these entities, the presence of Shri and Narayana is established in a manner that you can worship them the same way you worship Shri and Narayana directly. The cow is thus to be treated as a form of Shriman Narayana, the Mahabharata, especially in the Anushasana Parva states. Other animals too are created through Brahma Rishis like Kashyapa, so are cows. But the scriptures say that the purpose for which the cows are created, and the manner in which they are created, and the manner in which they continue living, these three things make them holy. The purpose for which they were created: move other creatures towards Shriman Narayana by sharing their punya with them and by taking their sins away from them. So even if a dog helps a cow, the dog gains the punya of the cow's penances. The cows, when I say the cow's penances, don't start imagining a cow sitting in a forest and doing penance. In its previous life, it would have been a rishi whose penances have been carried forwarded into the cow's present body. Those penances will come to any creature that helps the cow, that does seva for the cow, and hence we help the cow in order to wash our own sins from our previous lives away and move closer to Shriman Narayana. Shriman Narayana have also ordained that any act of bhakti and any yajna cannot be completed without service to cows and without giving the cow as dana to brahmanas. Godana is a subject that I will not cover over here. I will only talk about Goseva. Godanas, when you physically take the cow and the bull and along with the calf and you actually give them to a brahmana for their safekeeping. That's another subject. We are not going to cover that here. We are only going to talk about seva. When you do seva to these animals only, does any other form of bhakti bear fruit? You want to learn the Vedas? Good. You cannot do that successfully without serving cows. You want to conduct a yajna? Good. You cannot do that successfully without serving cows. You want to become a better person. You want to increase your own bhakti towards Shriman Narayana. Very good. You cannot do that successfully without serving cows. Any act of Sanatana Dharma that needs to bear fruit can bear fruit only when cows and bulls are served. This is also explained in the Mahabharata in various parvas. A particular parva where again and again I quote this parva is Anushasana Parva. Goseva is delved into much detail over there. So although cows are born, as we can see in the schematic, through Kashyapa's blood, they are earmarked differently, and the Jivatmans who will be given the body of the cow will also possess that kind of penance in order to hone such a body and be worthy of such a body. We see that cows, the first cows that ever appeared, came through Brahma's body. Now, creation is not linear. It's not like one creature creates another creature. No. Several different creatures can create several variations of the same species. For example, some cows came through Brahma, some cows came through Kashyapa, some asuras came through Brahma, some asuras came via Kashyapa, some devas came from Brahma, some devas come from Kashyapa, some rakshasas come from Brahma, from Kashyapa, from Pulastya and various other places. And in this manner, members of the same race can come from multiple sources. Cows are also shown in the same way. They come through various sources. It should be remembered that ultimately the dog, the pig, the goat, everybody comes in one way or the other from Brahma or from a Brahma Rishi or from a Prajapati. But only one group the scripture earmarks as holy and venerable, because only that group was earmarked by Shriman Narayana as their akaras, their forms. Now we are told that every part of the cow is holy and it's an abode of a deva. Why do devas come and reside in cows? Actually, you can extrapolate whatever we have discussed so far to get the answer to this. If Shriman Narayana come and sit in one place and tell people around them and tell bhaktas around them, worship us, devas are also their bhaktas. Devas will come eagerly and want to worship them. Thus, given that Shriman Narayana established the cow as their own venerable physical form, the devas eagerly come to the cow and they sit on various parts of the cow in various amsha rupas. Therefore, when we say that various parts of the cow are abodes of various devas, it's not a figure of speech, it's literal. They come in graha rupas, they come in various amsha rupas. They extend their own physical presence into the cow and project themselves in those parts of the cow, because when they sit in those parts, their Lakshmi Kataksha is left undisturbed. Now we come to our next point. Lakshmi Kataksha. I just said Lakshmi Kataksha. Why do we treat cows as akaras of Lakshmi and bulls as akaras of Narayana? The easy answer is, yeah, scripture said so. Okay. But there is a deeper level to this. Lakshmi is basically the target setter for the Jivatman. Shri Devi, who sits in Narayana's chest, is the one who decides which Jivatman is going to live in what life form, in which time period, and thereby expiate what set of its own karmas. Therefore, she sets the targets for Jivatmans in every succeeding life. She sets the Lakshya for every succeeding life form, and the Ahirbudhnya Samhita of Pancharatra Agama states that she who sets the target, the Lakshya for a life form, is Lakshmi. Lakshmi literally means target setter. In a way of speaking, she is the boss of creatures, of all creatures, devas, asuras, anything you name it, she is the boss. She has set their targets. When we say the cow is an akara of Lakshmi, we basically are serving Lakshmi by serving the cow, and therefore we are serving the target setter by serving the cow. And what will she do? She will orient your target more and more towards her. She will orient your target more and more towards Dharma. And eventually, by service to the cow itself, the Mahabharata Anushasana Parva says, you can reach Vaikuntha. The target moves closer and closer and closer to Vaikuntha, and the target setter finally takes you off to her own abode by telling her husband, Narayana, do this Jivatman, the ultimate blessing that you can do, and take him or take this Jivatman into our abode. That is the power of a cow, which is also why they are extremely non-violent creatures. They are not like lions, they are not like tigers. They will run when you hit them, but they seldom ever hit back. Which brings us to our next question. This is why you do not ever even think bad of a cow, think evil of a cow, because the moment you think evil of the cow, you're thinking evil of the embodiment of Dharma itself. You're thinking evil of the Vedas, you're thinking evil of all the sages, you're thinking evil of Vyasa, you're thinking evil of Shri, you're thinking evil of Narayana, you're thinking evil of the Nityasuris, you're thinking evil of every Acharya Purusha out there, you're thinking evil of Dharma itself. And therefore even thinking evil of the cow is not forgivable, so to speak. So forget shoving a cow or hitting the cow. I wouldn't even want to go into that, venture into those possibilities. What about other animals? Deva Lakshanas, or the qualities of Devas, are present in other animals as well. And animals' current form tells us what their previous karma could have been like, because remember, it's the previous karma that gives you your current form. So your current form and your current behavior tells you also and gives you an inkling as to what your previous forms could have been. Certain breeds of tortoises, horse, rabbits, deer, they are all fit for being sacrificed in yajnas to go to Devalokas. They do have Deva Lakshanas, but not in the same way as a cow. The cow is infinitely greater than them. That's why, although horse can be sacrificed in an Ashwamedha, you don't worship a horse. Now, we come to the next question of sacrificing an animal. It sounds cruel. It sounds barbaric to many people. How can you sacrifice an animal? Now, sacrifice of animals, unfortunately, cannot be done in Kali Yuga. And I say unfortunately cannot be done in Kali Yuga because when you sacrifice an animal, the animal gets a better gati. It can get the position of a rishi or a deva, and it can continue its onward journey to Vaikuntha to leave the cycle of creation and destruction and gain salvation eternal and reach Shri and Narayana's abode permanently. When you sacrifice an animal in Vedic Dharma, you do not do it for gaining the animal's flesh and cooking a dish out of it. No. In fact, our Itihasas and Puranas like Bhagavata Purana, Mahabharata, they all show us that when an animal is sacrificed, pretty much the entire animal is burnt. The entire animal's body is completely burnt. It's more or less like a cremation of the animal. Its soul is propelled by the Yajna Agni to gain another form and go off to better lokas. Thus, the sacrifice is not done for food. It's not done as a means of cooking. No. It's even sinful to actually think that. The sacrifice can be done only with certain kinds of certain animals. You can't do this with every deer or every horse or no. You cannot do that. The sacrifice can be done only by certain paramparas of Brahmanas and only by certain paramparas of Kshatriyas who don't exist today. Therefore, in Kali Yuga, it's not allowed. and it can be only done by great tapasvis and bhaktas of Shriman Narayana, who do not look at the sacrifice as an act of murder, but they look at the sacrifice as an act of giving the animal a better gati, pleasing Shriman Narayana, and as a result of doing this, gaining all the phalas of the yajna, which gives them more power to do dharma. That's why we see in our itihasas and Puranas, a king did a yajna and he became very strong, and he was able to fight Rakshasas and Asuras and other forces of evil. We see this recurring theme in Puranas and itihasas, correct? The reason for that is this. There is no such thing as unfairness to a certain animal because that particular animal is not as holy as the cow. No. Every creature by Lakshmi has been given a certain Lakshya, and their target is to reach Lakshmi, to reach Shriman Narayana. That's it. There is no question of unfairness to one side and fairness to one side in this. No. Every creature has its own set of duties to do. We as humans have our own set of duties to do according to our Varna Dharma and our Ashrama Dharma. When we blindly follow just those duties by reposing faith in the Vedic scriptures as to what our duties are, and when we just do this with the purpose, with the express desire to please Shri and Narayana in order to reach their abode, we will stop seeing things in the viewpoint of fairness, unfairness, advantage, disadvantage. We will only start seeing everything from the point of view of reaching Vaikuntha to go to Shri and Narayana and live with them for all eternity. Therefore, the question of fairness and unfairness doesn't arise because it's the same Shri and Narayana who created the cow, who created the dog, who created the goat, who created the pig, who created the donkey, who created humans, who created the devas, who created everything. So to conclude, all creatures, they come from a primordial mother creature and they have their own lakshyas set for them and their own pathways whereby they are supposed to please Shri and Narayana. Those pathways are defined as their respective dharmas. Cows in this regard cows and bulls are entirely distinct from other animals. What about those bovines which do not exactly fall under the cow-bull category, such as yaks, bisons, buffaloes? To put it very simply, without delving too much into it, they are descendants of those cows and bulls which over time turned tamasic. And like how a Brahmana's lineage can turn tamasic over time and the entire lineage can even go to Chandalatva or turn into Mlechas, the same thing happens even in animals. The same karma phala affects them also in various ways. So bovines who fall outside of the cow and the bull category, they are basically creatures that have over time lost their go lakshana, although they were born to cows and bulls. This again brings us to the next question of what is a venerable cow or a venerable bull? The simple answer to this, without again going into too much complex detail, is when they say desi pure breed cow or bull, a cow or a bull that is of uniform color, has horns of a certain shape and a size, they have a hump on their back and they have a dewlap, their neck hangs down like a dewlap. These are certain basic lakshanas for a cow or a bull to be considered as still retaining the ancient go lakshanas which Brahma gave them. Buffaloes don't have this, yaks don't have this, bisons don't have this, therefore their milk is not given in yajnas. They are not given as danas after a yajna is completed. You don't have Mahisha dana, you don't have bison dana, you don't have yak dana, you have Vrishabha dana and Godana. You have only these. Even though they are descendants of ancient cows and bulls that over time turned tamasic, this is again to remind you, being a tamasika descendant of a satvika creature doesn't make you necessarily evil. It just makes your gunas such that you can't be a participant in certain kinds of yajnas. It doesn't make you evil. A dog isn't evil. A cat isn't evil. A pig isn't evil. But they do have certain lingering karma phalas over them from their previous lives that gives them rajoguna and tamoguna in such excess that makes them unfit to be participants of certain kinds of activities such as yajnas. Which is why when we serve animals, the cow should be given food that is uneaten and untouched by everyone, whereas all other animals, wild animals especially like dogs, pigs, cats, etc., must be given food at the end of the day, unused food that would otherwise go waste. The reason we do this is because these animals also deserve a share of our punyas, they deserve a share of our penances, whereby they might make their onward journey to Shri and Narayana, expiating their own sins. We are supposed to help them with our penances. Therefore, a follower of Sanatana Dharma, be he a Brahmana, a Kshatriya, a Vaishya, or a Shudra, or anybody else, when they live according to their Varna and their Ashrama Dharma, a part of their Tapobala, penance powers, goes into the food that they touch. And when they leave the remnants of the food at the end of the day for the wild animals to eat, those animals partake of their karma, gaining their punya, so that when they die at the end of those lives, they will gain better gatis. Think of it the same way as how a sacrifice works. When a horse is sacrificed, it goes to a Devaloka. The same way, when a dog eats the food from the remaining leftover food from the house of a tapasvi that has been kept outside, the dog will gain some karma of the tapasvi, thereby in the next life, if it has to have a next life, it can go to Vaikuntha straight after that life also. And also our scriptures say, but if it has to have a next life after that, it will at the very least be born as a great punyaman who will try even more quickly to leave the cycle of creation and destruction. So, our service to various animals is also delineated by the scriptures to be done in different ways. You cannot keep remaining food for the cows and bulls. You have to give them food first because they are akaras of Shri and Narayana. Whereas other animals, which are not venerable akaras of Shri and Narayana, they are given the food that is going. It is still fresh. It can still be eaten, but if it is kept overnight, it will go waste. It should have been prepared that same morning, and it should still be in an edible form. That food, when it is kept outside at the end of the day at sunset, those animals will partake of that and gain a share of your good karma, assuming that you are a good dharmic person. And therefore, our dharmas towards various animals are delineated according to our own karmas and according to the animals' karmas. There is no question of unfairness in any of this, because all of this is targeted to make us help each other in a symbiotic manner to reach Shri and Narayana and leave the cursed cycle, the miserable cycle of creation and destruction. Shout out to Dakshin Vrindavan for serving cows. I leave you with their contact details. Contact them, serve cows, and move yourself closer to leaving the cycle of creation and destruction and going and living with our eternal parents, Shri and Narayana. Srimate Narayanaya Namo Namaha.